Marco Amato from MindTest.
Yeah.
And the talk is about free your games.
Thank you.
So it's yours.
Hello everyone, my name is Marco Amato, better known as Doogie on the internet, and today we're gonna talk about Libre games, so like video games that are free software, and more specifically we're gonna talk about something that is not called MindTest anymore actually, so this is deprecated. It's called Luanti, because after 14 years we changed the name. And I'm gonna talk to you more specifically about our server which was made during the pandemic, which was made with Luanti, formerly known as MindTest, and it's not really a game, but it's a game platform. What a game platform is, basically, when you make video games, you use a tool called an engine, like a game engine, and then you have the game. If you take these two concepts and you put it into one, you obtain a game platform like Roblox. Basically, you can use the tool both for make video games, but also as a library to play different video games. And this is what Luanti is. It's not a Minecraft clone anymore. It's been probably 6-7 years. So yeah, this is basically what I was saying. Game engine. You use. Okay. Then moving on. This is not the core topic of this talk, but personally I started doing free software development because I was pretty upset, to use an euphemism, with the industry of video games, because this is Roblox and this is the thumbnail of a reportage made by this British YouTube channel called People Make Games. And basically what they found about Roblox, which is a game played mostly by early teenagers and children, is that exploits child labor and promises easy money. Spoiler, there is no easy money out there. Roblox says they haven't enough money, yet the CEO is a billionaire. There were cases of internal harassment ignored. They push people to gamble, and science tells us that like teenagers, when they develop a gambling addiction, it will be way harder to eradicate compared to an adult. There are also pretty raw interviews in these two videos. And also, because they don't have enough money, in 2021 they earned more than Nintendo. So fast forward, because I could talk about these things for a while, but that's not the point. Some people started exercise dissent, and you can say, okay, I'm not fine with what's happening with the AAA industry. So you can either unionize, for instance, like internal dissent. There are groups like GameWorks Unite or Tech Workers Coalition, which are international groups fighting for workers' rights, but also you can protest like externally. So you can vote with your wallet, and you can refuse to support certain realities. However, we are in the digital world, and being in the digital world means that in the analogical one, if I want to, I don't know, clone this shirt for, or I don't know, 1 million copy, I need resources, I need machineries, I need color, I need time and money. In the digital world, you can just grab a file and copy it a lot of time, and the only thing you need is electricity to power up, to keep the device on. And so what we can do when we talk about video games, but not only video games actually, is we can rebuild some games that we really liked, and we can try to make it again without all the exploitation and people developing addictions and so on. So this brings us to our Luanti server, which is called AES. AES is an acronym. It stands for Arcade Emulation System, and it's basically a mini-game server made with Luanti. And it started during the pandemic with this picture, actually. I was running this contest to keep people busy during the pandemic because we were in our houses, we couldn't really live. And people had to either draw or build different stuff. There was a theme every day, and that day the theme was swords, and you needed to use voxels in order to build this sword. And this user tells me, okay, I made it with MindTest, because it was called MindTest at the time. So I started looking into it, and down to the rabbit hole, that's how we started with the first version of our server. This is probably the only screen I was able to find. It was called Fossa delle Papere, which is simply a debatable Italian word pun with the word foss, literally means the duck's pit. It was April 2020. We had 2 mini games. One was a simple version of Quake, and another one was called Murder. And Murder wasn't made by me actually, but by this guy called Jova, which is also now the second main developer of our server, which is completely free software, of course. And I just made this like library where people can build mini games easily. Mini games are basically games that you can play inside a game, so that you don't need to build the infrastructure every time, the party system, because it's already there. You can just focus on your minigame. But then we had the second lobby. It didn't really work because things like were too scattered around, and like the user experience was pretty bad, even if it was kind of cool. So we started like with a serious prototype. This was a pixel art, so we started building and building and building and building, and guess what? Building. And we reached the third version, the third hub of the server, who lasted for almost 4 years. We had plenty of mini games, international contributors, and people. We had to stop people from contributing, like, because they wanted to add a lot of mini games in our server, but every mini game meant a lot of new crashes, basically, because it wasn't our codes, and we had to maintain that, and we had to talk a lot with them. It wasn't really worth it. So after a while, we said, you know what, enough. We want to focus on quality rather than quantity. And we also had a fork. Like, this guy completely forked our server, and it lasted for a while. It was called Minigames Galore. And then we reintegrated the project after a year. But that was fun. I wasn't expecting like a fork of an entire server. We also detoured for a little while with this project called Synthetic Stars, which was made with Godot. But yeah, that didn't last very long, because in 2021 we were like, yeah, you know what? Let's go back to it was called Mindtest, because Godot is kind of hard, so not worth it. And at the time, we were just the server was still on. We weren't maintaining it anymore, so there was no moderation basically. And so we reached the third version. Part 2 of the third version. We added tournaments, and tournaments helped a lot with users, because we're talking about a niche software, so that's already hard by itself to find new people that want to play. And we can tell that we had a lot of new users keeping playing online, because we also added stats. Thanks to Grafana. And these stats are completely available for everyone. This is like no secret for us. You can just join, you can just open our website, link at the end. And we do not track players, we track minigames. So we can tell how many times this minigame has been played in the last, 6 months compared to another minigame. How much time people usually spend in that mini game, etc., etc. And basically, every time we had a tournament, you could see the mini game of the tournament spiking, basically. So this helps us having, to know what actually is going on with an objective view. And then we reach the fourth and hopefully final version of the server, which is very much smaller compared to the third one. Things are not scattered around anymore. Also, we added portals, because earlier, if you wanted to join like a minigame, you had to smash a sign with left click or just tapping. It depends on the device, because Luanti runs on different devices. And now you can also enter a few mini games, namely Fantasy Brawl and Block League, going through portals, which is, I think, is pretty cool, because you don't really have to smash or understand how it works. You just see a portal and you go through the portal. And last but not least, like 2 months ago, we added a Weblate integration for translations. So right now, basically, if you go to that link, you can see that people can actually contribute to translations quite easily without having to know anything about coding. And there was also this event by Codebug, which was called the Translathon. And we took part in it, and we had a lot of contributions, like something now is in Chinese in our server, and like, okay, nice. Because one of the nice thing of Luanzi is that if your client, for instance, I don't know, is in German, and the content is available in German, when I log in a server or when I play a single player game, I'll see the German content. So players, when they play online in our server on AES, if they're Chinese, they will read things in Chinese. The only thing in English is chat, because people try to communicate in English as a lingua franca, of course. But that reduces a lot the that increases, sorry, a lot the accessibility of the server. Also because the 60% of people downloading Luanzi from the Play Store usually, well, they don't play with the English language, like in English, and that's a huge problem if we don't support their languages. So basically, key points, what we learned in this 4 years adventure, which is still going, we contributed to Luanzi because there are things that we needed, but everyone needed. For instance, on your left, you can barely see all the names, and we just added a semi-transparent background so that people can actually understand or read a little bit those names, those name tags. Also, isolate better in general, because we're not taking part in a world where making games means exploiting, abusing, or killing people, because there's also that, but I'm not going to talk about that because I won't end. And also, it acts as a portfolio, apparently, because for all my life, I wanted to make video games for a living, and then I grew tired of it and was like, yeah, you know what, fuck that, I'm tired. But now, for the first time that I tried not to make money out of it, it has become a job. So I also make video games with Luanzi, and which also means that we have now more Libre games, because my clients apparently are super fine with the fact that we can release everything as free software. Also, there is a free software FSFE, sorry, collaborations, talking about clients, for this book that you can find outside. More about that in the Italian meeting tomorrow, so I won't spoil a lot, but basically, yeah, we're also collaborating with an organization like FSFE, so that makes me very, very happy. I can live basically making free video games, well, free video games, Libre video games, and basically that's it. This is our website if you want to look into our server, or if you want to look into Luanzi, which is the tool that we used, is luanzi.org or mindtest.net, because we are still, we changed the name like 2 weeks ago, so we're still in the process of, you know, putting things. And yeah, basically I'm done. I don't know if there are questions or anything. We've got like 2 minutes left, more or less. Or we can stop here.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Are there questions?
Perfect.
No questions so far. Okay, so how many users, players do you have? Do you have some numbers just to give some?
Not here, but we've got a lot of users. Like in every Linux distribution, in the game section of the package manager, Luanzi is there. Like it will be called Luanzi in 2 days because we're releasing the new version. Right now it's called Mindtest, but yeah, definitely a lot of people. Some of them because they are looking for the cracked version of Minecraft, but
sure.
they learn about free software, and some of them start contributing also to our server. Like we had this Spanish, guy from Colombia who started contributing to translations, even if he doesn't know how to code, and now basically all the server is in Spanish as well. So that's really nice.